When I first retired at 66, I thought life would slow down and become peaceful, like a quiet lake after years of working. And in many ways, it did. But what I learned quickly was that stress does not retire just because I did. It simply changes shape. It is no longer about deadlines or meetings. Now it shows up as small things: forgetting an appointment, struggling with sleep, dealing with daily aches, or just feeling a little out of rhythm. Over time, I realized that there are certain things, small everyday items, that actually made a big difference in how I live and feel during retirement. These are not expensive gadgets or luxury products. They are simple, practical tools that helped me feel calmer, more independent, and a bit more in control. So today, I want to share 7 items I bought, or wish I had bought earlier, that truly helped make my retirement less stressful and a whole lot more peaceful. 1. Noise-canceling headphones. If you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be sitting in my living room wearing headphones just to enjoy a bit of quiet, I would have laughed. Back then, the house was always full. Kids running in and out, phones ringing, the TV going in the background, dinner sizzling on the stove. I didn't even notice noise. It was just life. But after retirement, the kind of noise that gets to you, it changes. The loud part of life isn't inside the house anymore. It's outside. Lawnmowers in the morning, dogs barking down the street, delivery trucks backing up with that awful beeping, teenagers blasting music from their cars. Nothing unusual. But when you're trying to enjoy a peaceful moment, maybe reading, maybe praying, maybe just thinking, it starts to wear on you. So, one day my grandson left his noise-canceling headphones on the kitchen table. Out of curiosity, I put them on. It was like flipping a switch. The room didn't just get quiet, it got still. The kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. No hum of traffic, no ticking clock, no distractions. It felt like my own mind got a little quieter too. That night, I ordered a pair of my own. Not top of the line, just something decent. And I'll tell you what, I use them almost every single day now. I wear them in the early morning when I sit on the porch with my coffee. I wear them in the afternoon while reading a good book. I even wear them to rest my eyes in the recliner without being startled by passing noise. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I play an old jazz station that reminds me of the days when we danced in the kitchen. But often, I just wear them for the silence, because silence, once you find it, becomes something you treasure. It's not just about blocking out sound. It's about creating space for peace, for focus, for thought. I've even found it helps with sleep. When my mind won't settle, I'll put on soft instrumental music, and something about the headphones signals to my brain, it's time to relax now. I didn't grow up with things like this, and at first, it felt like a luxury. But now I think of it as a form of self-care. We spent decades putting up with noise. Noise from work, from family, from a busy world. Now that we finally have the chance to slow down, why not protect the quiet we've earned? So if you're someone who finds yourself a little tense, a little overwhelmed by sounds you can't control, give noise-canceling headphones a try. You don't have to use them all day, but for the moments that matter, when you want stillness, reflection, or just a break from the outside world, they're worth every penny. 2. Electric kettle with auto shutoff. I've always been a tea drinker, not every day, but often enough. A cup in the morning to start the day. Sometimes another one in the evening, just to wind down. Nothing fancy, black tea with a little honey. But the routine of it, the warmth of it, that's what I've always enjoyed. For decades, I used a stovetop kettle, the kind that whistles when it's done. It worked just fine. But one morning, not long after I retired, I put the kettle on, walked into the living room, sat down to check the mail, and forgot all about it. By the time I heard the whistle, the smell of scorched metal had already filled the house. It scared me a little, to be honest. I realized then that I couldn't rely on memory the way I used to. Not because I was losing my mind, but because retirement brings a different rhythm. You're not rushing out the door anymore. You're more relaxed, and that's a good thing. But it also means your routines shift, and sometimes that leads to forgetfulness. That day, I ordered an electric kettle with an auto shut-off. I'd seen my neighbor using one and thought it was more of a young folks gadget. But let me tell you, this little thing has made my life easier in more ways than I expected. First of all, it's fast. It heats water in just a few minutes. No waiting around. No guessing when it's done. And when it is done, it shuts off by itself. No hissing, no whistling, no risk. If I walk away, no big deal. The water's hot and waiting for me when I come back. I use it for tea, yes, but I also use it to make oatmeal, instant soup, hot chocolate when my grandkids visit. I even use it to warm up water for soaking my feet when my arthritis acts up. It's one of those tools that earns its place on the counter, not just because it works, but because it brings a bit of comfort into daily life. And more than that, it brings confidence. I don't have to second guess myself. I don't have to ask, did I leave the stove on? That peace of mind might seem small, but when you're living alone or simply trying to make life a little smoother, it matters. We spend so much time planning for retirement in big ways, saving money, downsizing, figuring out healthcare. But sometimes it's the little things, like not having to worry about a boiling kettle, that make all the difference. So if you're still using a stovetop kettle and you've ever found yourself second-guessing or rushing back to the kitchen just to be sure, do yourself a favor. Get an electric kettle with auto shut-off. It's not just a convenience. It's a kind of freedom. 3. Grabber tool, reach extender. Let me tell you, nothing reminds you that you're aging quite like trying to pick up something off the floor and realizing it's not as simple as it used to be. It starts small, just a little stiffness, maybe a grunt when you bend down. Then one day, you drop your keys and it feels like a whole event just to retrieve them. I used to push through it. I'd crouch, stretch, even climb a step stool to get what I needed. But all it takes is one wrong move. I had a friend, John, we used to work together. He fell while reaching for a book on a high shelf. Nothing dramatic, just a slip. But he fractured his hip, and that changed his entire year. That story stuck with me. So when my daughter brought over a reach extender, one of those little tools with a claw on the end, I figured I'd try it. I thought I'd use it once in a while. Turns out I use it every day. I use it to pull socks from under the bed, to grab cans from the back of the pantry, to pick up the mail when it drops through the slot and slides across the floor. I even use it to turn off lights I forgot to switch before sitting down. What surprised me most wasn't just the convenience. It was the feeling of independence, that I didn't need to call someone every time I dropped something, that I didn't have to wait until one of the kids visited to reach a high shelf, that I could still do things for myself, just with a little help from a clever tool. It's not a fancy item. You can find them at hardware stores or online for less than the price of dinner. But for what it offers, safety, ease, dignity, it's one of the best things I've added to my home since I retired. You don't realize how much stress comes from little things until those little things aren't so easy anymore. A grabber tool doesn't just save your knees or your back, it saves you from feeling helpless. And that, to me, is worth its weight in gold. 4. Large button phone or tablet. I never thought I'd need a special phone. I've always been pretty good with technology. I worked in an office for years, learned to type fast on a keyboard, even helped my son set up his first email account back in the 90s. So when smartphones came around, I figured I'd be fine. But over time, my eyes just don't see as sharply as they used to. My hands aren't as quick either. Trying to hit those tiny on-screen buttons? Frustrating. And don't get me started on voice messages. I'd press the wrong thing and end up calling someone I didn't mean to. It came to a head one afternoon when I was trying to text my granddaughter a happy birthday message. Took me almost 10 minutes just to type it, and I still spelled her name wrong. I felt embarrassed, And worse, I felt behind. Like the world was speeding up and I wasn't keeping up anymore. That night, I sat down with my daughter and told her I was tired of feeling like technology was more trouble than it was worth. She nodded and said, "Dad, why don't we just get you something that fits you better?" So we did. A phone with a big screen, big buttons, and a simple layout. Nothing fancy. Just easy. And let me tell you, it changed everything. Now I can actually see what I'm dialing. I don't panic when I try to check my messages. I can video call my grandkids without asking for help every time. I even use the calendar and reminders, things I never bothered with before, but now they make my day smoother. I also picked up a tablet with a similar setup. It has large icons, good contrast, and just a few apps I actually use. News, weather, email, and a place to look at family photos. I sit in the morning with my coffee, swipe through pictures from my grandson's soccer games, and I feel like I'm part of their life, even from a distance. What I realized is this: the world isn't leaving us behind. But we do have to meet it halfway, and that means using tools that actually work for us, not against us. I know some folks resist the idea of getting a simplified device. They think it makes them look old or out of touch. But to me, there's nothing dignified about squinting and tapping for 10 minutes just to make a call. There's strength in saying, "I want something that fits my life." So if you're still struggling with a phone that frustrates you more than it helps, it might be time to make the switch. Get a phone or tablet with big buttons, clear display, and a layout that makes sense. Not because you can't learn something new, but because you've earned the right to use what makes your day easier, not harder. Technology should serve us, not the other way around. 5. Weighted blanket. I didn't expect sleep to become a challenge after retirement. You'd think that without the stress of work, early alarms, and late-night planning, falling asleep would be easier, but it wasn't. Some nights, I'd lie in bed for hours. My body was tired, but my mind kept going. I'd think about the past, things I could have done differently, or I'd worry about the future. Sometimes, it was as simple as being too aware of the silence. When you live alone, night can feel longer than it is. Then one day I read about weighted blankets. I'd never heard of them before. The idea sounded strange, putting a heavier blanket on your body to help you sleep. But the more I read, the more it made sense. The gentle pressure is supposed to calm your nervous system, like being held without anyone having to be there. So I decided to try one. I ordered a medium-weight blanket, nothing too heavy. It arrived in a plain box, no big promises, just fabric and weight. That night, I pulled it over me and felt something I didn't expect. I felt grounded. It was like my body said, "You're safe now." Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet signal that it was okay to let go of the day. Over the weeks, my sleep got better. I didn't toss and turn as much. I stopped waking up 3 or 4 times a night. And even when I couldn't sleep right away, I felt more settled. It also helped in ways I didn't expect. On days when I feel anxious for no clear reason, which happens more often than people talk about, I lie down for 20 minutes under that blanket and my breathing slows. My chest loosens. My shoulders stop tensing. I've even used it during afternoon naps or when reading in my recliner on rainy days. There's something about the weight that gives me permission to rest. Really rest. It's not magic. It's not a cure-all. But for me, it's become a comfort tool, like a warm cup of tea or a phone call with someone who understands. Some people might think it's silly or a luxury. I see it as a small investment in my peace of mind. And at this stage of life, that's worth more than most things. If you've been struggling with sleep, or just feel unsettled sometimes, give it a try. Start with a lighter weight. Use it a few nights. See how your body responds. You might find, like I did, that it gives you more than just rest. It gives you a deeper sense of calm, because retirement isn't just about living longer. It's about living better. And better often begins with a good night's sleep. 6. Slow cooker or air fryer. I wasn't feeding a family anymore. There were no rushed dinners after work, no big Sunday meals with everyone around the table. Most nights, it was just me, staring at a fridge full of ingredients, asking the same question. What do I feel like eating? Some days, I'd skip cooking altogether and settle for toast, cereal, or something frozen. Not because I didn't want a real meal, but because it just felt like too much trouble. Standing at the stove, watching a pot, washing a bunch of pans. It didn't seem worth the effort, especially if it left my back sore or my kitchen a mess. I still wanted good food. Something warm, something that smelled like home. I just didn't want the stress that came with making it. That's when I discovered the slow cooker. And not long after, the air fryer. The slow cooker reminded me of how my mother used to cook. Low and slow, filling the house with the smell of stew or pot roast for hours. The beauty is, it takes 5 minutes of prep in the morning, and by dinner time, you've got a full meal waiting. I throw in some chopped vegetables, a piece of meat or beans, a bit of broth or seasoning, and just turn the knob. That's it. No standing, no stirring, no stress. And the best part? The smell. Around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, the whole house fills with that rich, familiar scent, like someone's been cooking for you all day. And in a way, you have, just without the hard work. Now the air fryer, on the other hand, became my go-to when I want something quick, hot, and a little crispy. Leftover pizza? Perfect in the air fryer. No sogginess like the microwave. Potatoes? Crunchy outside, soft inside. I've even made salmon in there. It's surprisingly easy. And it's safer. No open flame. No hot oil. It shuts off automatically. And it's easy to clean. Just one basket. As someone who's gotten tired of scrubbing pans, that alone is worth it. More than convenience, though, these tools gave me something else: confidence. They helped me feel like I could still enjoy good food, without relying on others, without eating out all the time, and without hurting myself in the kitchen. Because let's face it, our balance isn't what it used to be, and burns or slips near the stove are no joke. My neighbor Joe, he used to hate cooking. After I showed him how to make chili in the slow cooker, he was hooked. Now he brags about his famous pulled pork every other weekend. And honestly, it's not bad. For me, cooking became something I enjoy again. Not a burden, not a chore, but a quiet part of the day I look forward to. And when the grandkids come over, I can still surprise them with something warm and homemade. Not store-bought, not microwaved. Real food. That matters to me. So if you've been avoiding cooking because it feels like too much or too dangerous, do yourself a favor. Try one of these. Either one or both. Start simple. Soup in a slow cooker. Toasted sandwiches in the air fryer. You'll find a rhythm. And soon enough, you'll be eating better, saving money, and feeling proud that you're still doing it your way. Retirement should taste good. And with a little help from these small appliances, it really can. 7. Digital calendar with reminders, visual and audio. I used to keep everything in my head. Birthdays, doctor's appointments, when to take my medication. It all lived up here. And for a long time, that worked just fine. I had a sharp memory, and I was proud of that. I'd remind other people when they forgot things. But as the years passed, I started to notice little slips. Nothing big at first, just forgetting to pick up something from the store, or missing a grandkid's baseball game because I thought it was on Saturday, not Sunday. I'd beat myself up over it, not because anyone else made a big deal, but because I hold myself to a certain standard. Then came the day I forgot to take my blood pressure medication, twice in 1 week. That's when I realized my memory wasn't failing me because I was getting old. It was just carrying too much. too many dates, too many little tasks stacked on top of each other. And I didn't need to prove I could remember everything anymore. I just needed to remember the important things and let a system help with the rest. So I got myself a digital calendar with reminders. Nothing complicated, just something that would beep, blink, or chime when it was time to do something important. I could see my whole week laid out in front of me, and I didn't have to rely on sticky notes or scraps of paper that always went missing. Now, every morning, I check the little screen on my kitchen counter. It shows me the weather, the date, and what's coming up. Doctor's appointments, calls with family, even simple notes like take out the trash or refill prescription. And when it's time for something, a soft chime lets me know. Not loud, not annoying, just enough to bring me back to the moment. I use it for more than just health stuff. I have reminders to water my plants, to stretch in the morning, to call my friend George every other Thursday. I even set one to remind me to put the recycling out, because for some reason I always forget that part. What surprised me wasn't how helpful it was was how freeing it felt. I stopped worrying about forgetting. I stopped feeling guilty when I missed something. And that mental space? It opened up room for joy, for reading, walking, and just sitting with my thoughts without that nagging feeling of, what did I forget? It also helped with sleep. Funny how much better you rest when you trust that something else is holding the wheel while you close your eyes. Now, I know not everyone likes the idea of digital reminders. Some folks feel like it's giving up control. But I see it differently. I see it as choosing peace over pressure, delegating to a little helper that never complains and never forgets. You can use a digital calendar on a tablet, a phone, or even a small screen that sits on the table. Some even talk to you, if that helps. What matters is finding something that fits you, something that takes just a few minutes to set up, but gives you peace of mind for days. So if your mind feels cluttered, or if you find yourself double booking, missing pills, or wondering, was that today? Consider getting a digital reminder system, because retirement shouldn't be a memory test. It should be a time when you finally get to live each day with intention, not by accident. Retirement isn't about doing less. It's about living better. Retirement isn't just a change in schedule. It's a change in how we live, how we think, and how we care for ourselves. And I've learned over time that it doesn't take grand plans or expensive things to make this chapter easier. It's the small things that make the biggest difference. A kettle that shuts itself off, so I don't have to worry. A calendar that remembers, so I can relax. A warm blanket that makes sleep come a little easier. Simple tools. Honest comfort. Quiet help. They don't just save time. They save peace of mind. I didn't buy these things because I was falling apart. I bought them because I wanted to stay independent. I wanted to enjoy my days without stress chasing me around the house. And maybe, like me, you've reached a point where you don't need more, you just need better. Better habits. Better rest. Better moments. And if even one of these ideas helps bring that into your life, then I'm glad we had this time together. Take care of yourself, not just because you have to, but because you deserve to. You've spent a lifetime looking out for others. Now it's time to look out for you too. Thanks for watching. And as always, be gentle with yourself.